If you could go back and do retirement differently, what would you change? It's a fascinating question because when we're younger, we spend so much time planning for retirement financially. We focus on savings accounts, investments, Social Security, pensions, and making sure we have enough money to make it through our later years. But what about the emotional side of retirement? What about the things that don't show up on a financial statement? What about the moments we miss, the opportunities we postpone, and the dreams we keep telling ourselves we'll get to someday? Hello and welcome back. Today, I want to share something that really made me stop and think. Recently, I spent time talking with several retirees in their mid-70s and 80s. These are people who have already traveled the road many of us are currently walking. They've experienced retirement for decades. They've had time to reflect on their decisions, their successes, and yes, their regrets. And what struck me was how similar their answers were. These weren't wealthy celebrities, they weren't financial experts. They were ordinary people who worked hard, raised families, paid bills, and eventually retired. When I asked them about their biggest retirement regrets, the same themes came up again and again. Their answers weren't really about money. They were about time, health, experiences, relationships, and making the most of the years they were given. So today, I want to share the 5 biggest regrets they told me about. My hope is that if you're already retired, this conversation gives you some inspiration. And if retirement is still ahead of you, maybe these lessons can help you create a future with fewer regrets and more joy. Let's begin with the first regret. Number 1, they wish they had retired earlier. This answer came up more than any other. Nearly every person I spoke with said some version of the same thing. I wish I had retired sooner. Now that surprised me at first. Many of these individuals retired at 65, which was considered completely normal for their generation. In fact, some of them thought they were fortunate to retire at 65. But looking back decades later, they felt differently. One gentleman told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I spent years worrying about whether I'd have enough money. Then I retired and I discovered I had enough. What I didn't have enough of was time." Think about that for a moment. Money can often be earned, saved, invested, and replaced. Time cannot. Once it's gone forever. Several retirees shared stories about places they wanted to visit, hobbies they wanted to pursue, and family experiences they wanted to enjoy. They kept postponing those dreams because they believed they needed to work one more year. Then one more year turned into 3. 3 turned into 5. Before they knew it, they were retiring with less energy, more health concerns, and fewer opportunities to enjoy the things they had waited so long to do. One woman told me she always dreamed of taking a 6-month road trip across the country with her husband. They kept delaying it because retirement was almost here. Sadly, by the time retirement arrived, her husband developed health issues that made the trip impossible. The money was there, the dream was still there, but the opportunity had passed. That's the difficult truth about retirement. Many of us spend decades planning financially, but forget that our health and energy are also assets. And unlike money, those assets often decline with age. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone should retire immediately. Everyone's situation is different. Some people genuinely need to continue working. Others enjoy their careers and find purpose in what they do. But these retirees wanted younger generations to understand something important. Don't become so focused on protecting your future that you forget to live in the present. Retirement isn't just about having enough money. It's about having enough life left to enjoy the freedom you've worked so hard to achieve. That lesson really stayed with me, because at the end of life, very few people seem to wish they had spent more hours in the office. Many wish they had spent more hours living. Number 2, they wish they had spent more money earlier in retirement. This one surprised me even more. You often hear people talk about saving more, investing more, protecting their nest egg, but these retirees had a different perspective. Many told me they wished they had spent more money during the early years of retirement. At first, that sounds strange. After all, most retirees are concerned about running out of money. That's a very real fear. But here's what they explained. When they first retired, they had energy. They could walk all day, travel comfortably, explore new places, take classes, start projects, try new experiences. In other words, they had both time and health. Yet many were so worried about preserving their savings that they didn't fully enjoy those years. One retiree told me he spent the first 10 years of retirement treating every expense as if it were an emergency. He constantly worried about future costs. He skipped vacations, avoided experiences, and delayed things he genuinely wanted to do. Now in his 80s, he has more money than he expected, but he no longer has the physical ability to enjoy many of the activities he postponed. His words were simple. "I saved my money. I just wish I had spent some of it while I could still enjoy it." That really puts things into perspective. The purpose of money isn't simply to accumulate it. Money is a tool. Its purpose is to help create experiences, opportunities, security, and freedom. Of course, being financially responsible matters. Nobody is suggesting reckless spending. But there is a balance. A healthy retirement isn't about dying with the largest bank account possible. It's about creating meaningful experiences while you still have the health and energy to enjoy them. Many retirees talked about trips they never took, family memories they never created, dreams they delayed because they were afraid of spending. And looking back, they realized they had been too cautious. One gentleman laughed as he said, "I spent 30 years saving for retirement and then spent 10 years being afraid to use the money." That's a lesson worth thinking about. Sometimes the memories you create today become the treasures you carry for the rest of your life. And unlike money, those memories only become more valuable with time. Now let's talk about the third regret. And honestly, this one may be the most important of them all. Number 3, they wish they had taken better care of their health. Every single retiree I spoke with mentioned health in one way or another. Some said it directly. Others brought it up while talking about travel, hobbies, or family. But no matter how the conversation started, it almost always came back to the same topic: health. One retiree said something incredibly powerful. He told me, "When you're younger, you think money is your most valuable asset. When you're older, you realize it's your health." That's a statement worth sitting with for a moment. Think about all the plans people make for retirement, the places they want to visit, the hobbies they want to enjoy, the grandchildren they want to spend time with, the volunteer work they want to do, the adventures they want to experience. Almost all of those plans depend on one thing: your health. Without it, even the best retirement plan can become difficult. Several retirees shared stories about things they could no longer do. One gentleman loved hiking. For years, he imagined spending retirement exploring trails across North America. But decades of neglecting his physical health eventually caught up with him. By the time he retired, joint pain and mobility issues limited what he could do. He wasn't bitter, he wasn't angry, but he was honest. He wished he had taken better care of himself when he was younger. Another retiree talked about how she always put everyone else's needs ahead of her own: her career, her children, her spouse, her responsibilities. She never made time for exercise, never prioritized sleep, never paid much attention to nutrition. Now she wishes she had invested in herself the same way she invested in everyone else. The interesting thing is that none of these people were talking about becoming fitness models. They weren't saying you need to spend hours in the gym every day. They were talking about simple habits: walking regularly, eating a little healthier, getting enough sleep, managing stress, keeping active, taking preventative care seriously. The small decisions that don't seem important in your 40s and 50s often become incredibly important in your 70s and 80s. I'll admit, this lesson hit close to home for me. Like many people, I have my weaknesses. Maybe it's that extra dessert. Maybe it's convincing myself that I'll start eating healthier next week. Maybe it's putting off exercise because life gets busy. We've all done it. But hearing these retirees speak with such conviction made me realize something. They're giving us a gift. They're sharing lessons they learned the hard way so we don't have to. One retiree smiled and said, "Take care of your body now because someday you'll be living in it full time." I laughed when he said it, but the more I thought about it, the wiser it sounded. Your body is the vehicle that carries you through retirement, and the better condition it's in, the more freedom you'll have to enjoy the years ahead. If there's one piece of advice that seemed universal among these retirees, it was this. Don't wait until you have a health problem to start caring about your health. Start today. Even small improvements can make a tremendous difference over the years. Now let's move on to regret number 4. Number 4, they wish they had developed more hobbies and interests. This was another answer that came up repeatedly. Many retirees said they underestimated how much free time retirement would actually bring. For years, work provided structure. It gave them a reason to get up every morning. It created goals, challenges, and routines. Then one day, retirement arrived. At first, it felt wonderful. Sleeping in, no deadlines, no meetings, no alarm clock.
But after a while, some retirees discovered something unexpected. Freedom without purpose can become boredom. One retiree described it perfectly. He said, "The first year of retirement felt like a vacation. The second year felt normal. By the third year, I realized I needed something meaningful to do." That's where hobbies become so important, not because they fill time, but because they create purpose. Several retirees told me they wish they had started developing hobbies much earlier. Some waited until retirement to figure out what interested them. Others assumed television would be enough entertainment. Eventually, they realized they needed something more engaging, something that challenged their minds, something that excited them, something that gave them a reason to look forward to tomorrow. One gentleman discovered woodworking in his 70s. He told me it completely transformed his retirement. Every project gave him a goal. Every finished piece gave him a sense of accomplishment. Most importantly, it gave him something to be passionate about. Another retiree became interested in photography. What started as a simple hobby eventually became a way to explore nature, meet new people, and continuously learn new skills. One woman joined a writing group and began recording stories from her life. At first, she thought she was simply preserving memories, but over time, she realized she was creating a legacy. She was documenting experiences her children and grandchildren might never otherwise hear. One of my favorite stories came from a gentleman who was writing memoirs for his great-granddaughter. He planned to give them to her when she turned 18. Imagine how meaningful that gift will be. A personal record of family history written by someone who lived it. That's far more valuable than anything money can buy. The retirees I spoke with had hobbies ranging from gardening and painting to music, puzzles, volunteering, reading, photography, and crafting. The specific activity didn't seem to matter. What mattered was having something that sparked curiosity, something that kept their minds active, something that brought joy. One retiree summed it up beautifully. He said, "Retirement isn't about stopping, it's about choosing what you're going to start." I love that perspective. Too often, people think retirement means the end of something, but perhaps it's really the beginning of a different chapter, a chapter where you finally have the freedom to explore interests you've been putting off for years. Maybe you've always wanted to learn an instrument. Maybe you've wanted to write a book. Maybe you've dreamed of gardening, painting, traveling, volunteering, or learning a new language. Whatever it is, don't wait. The best time to develop a hobby isn't someday, it's now. Because hobbies don't just fill your calendar, they enrich your life. And now let's talk about the 5th and final regret. Number 5, they wish they had traveled more. This answer probably won't surprise many people. Travel consistently ranked among the biggest regrets. Not because these retirees never traveled. Many of them did. The regret was that they waited too long. When we're younger, it's easy to assume there will always be time later. We'll travel next year. We'll visit that destination after retirement. We'll take that dream trip someday. But someday has a habit of arriving much faster than expected. Several retirees told me they spent years postponing travel because work was busy. Then family responsibilities took priority. Then finances felt uncertain. Then retirement arrived, and then health concerns began appearing.
Before they knew it, the window for easy travel had narrowed significantly. One retiree said, "I spent decades collecting travel brochures. I wish I had collected more passport stamps instead." That line made me smile, but it also carried an important lesson. Experiences often become more meaningful than possessions. Most people don't look back and wish they had bought a larger television or a newer piece of furniture. They remember the places they visited, the sunsets they watched, the people they met, the adventures they experienced, the stories they created. Travel doesn't have to mean luxury vacations or expensive international trips. For some retirees, their favorite memories came from simple road trips, weekend getaways, national parks, small towns, local adventures close to home. The destination mattered less than the experience itself. One couple told me their favorite retirement memory was driving across several states with no schedule and no deadlines. They simply explored, stopped when something looked interesting, talked for hours, created memories together. Those are the moments they treasure most today. The retirees emphasize something important. Travel becomes more difficult as we age. Not impossible, just more complicated. Health concerns, energy levels, insurance costs, mobility challenges, all of these factors can affect how easily someone travels in their later years. That's why so many wish they had prioritized travel earlier in retirement, when they had both freedom and physical capability. Their message wasn't to spend recklessly, it wasn't to abandon responsibility. It was simply this: if there's somewhere you've always wanted to go, don't assume you'll have endless opportunities to go there. The right time may never arrive. Sometimes you have to create the opportunity yourself, because memories created through travel often become some of the most treasured moments of retirement. None of them were focused on the mistakes most people worry about. They weren't talking about choosing the wrong stock. They weren't talking about buying the wrong car. They weren't talking about missing out on the perfect investment opportunity. Instead, their regrets centered around something much deeper. They regretted postponing life. The more I thought about it, the more I realized these 5 regrets are really connected. They all point to the same lesson. Life is happening right now, not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when every uncertainty disappears, not when your bank account reaches some magical number. Right now. The retirees who wished they had retired earlier were really saying they wish they had given themselves permission to enjoy life sooner. The retirees who wished they had spent more money weren't talking about being careless. They were talking about using their resources to create meaningful experiences while they still could. The retirees who wished they had taken better care of their health understood that physical well-being is the foundation that makes everything else possible. The retirees who wished they had developed hobbies wanted more purpose, more engagement, and more reasons to get excited about each day. And the retirees who wished they had traveled more were really expressing a desire to experience more of the world while they had the opportunity. At their core, all 5 regrets come back to one simple truth: don't put off living. That's easy to say, of course. Life gets busy, responsibilities pile up, there are bills to pay, families to support, obligations to fulfill, and unexpected challenges that appear out of nowhere. Most people aren't intentionally postponing their lives. They're simply doing what they believe they need to do. But these retirees offer a valuable perspective because they've already traveled further down the road. They can see things that are difficult for younger generations to see. They understand how quickly the years pass. One retiree shared something that has stayed with me ever since. He said, "When you're young, you think time moves slowly. When you're old, you wonder where it all went." Think about that. How many times have you said you'll do something next year? How many dreams are sitting on a shelf waiting for the perfect moment? How many experiences are being postponed because the timing doesn't feel exactly right? The truth is that perfect timing rarely exists. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be uncertainties. There will always be excuses that sound logical. But eventually, waiting becomes a habit. And before you know it, years have passed. One of the biggest lessons I learned from these conversations is that retirement isn't just a financial event, it's a life event. It's not simply about accumulating enough money to stop working. It's about creating a life worth waking up to every day. A life filled with meaning. A life filled with relationships. A life filled with experiences. A life filled with purpose. Money matters, of course. Financial security provides options and peace of mind. But these retirees reminded me that money is only one piece of the puzzle. You can have plenty of money and still have regrets. You can have financial security and still wish you had used your time differently. The goal isn't simply to retire. The goal is to retire well. And retiring well means paying attention to more than just your bank account. It means investing in your health, investing in your relationships, investing in experiences, investing in personal growth, investing in the things that truly make life meaningful. I also noticed something encouraging during these conversations. Even the retirees who had regrets weren't unhappy people. Far from it. Most were grateful. Most were content. Most had lived wonderful lives. Their regrets weren't expressions of bitterness. They were expressions of wisdom. They weren't saying they had failed. They were sharing lessons they wished someone had shared with them decades earlier. That's an important distinction. We all make mistakes. We all miss opportunities. We all have things we would do differently if given another chance. That's part of being human. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. The more awareness we have today, the fewer regrets we'll carry tomorrow. So if you're watching this and you're already retired, perhaps these lessons can inspire you to make the most of the years ahead. Maybe there's still a trip you want to take, a hobby you want to start, a friend you want to reconnect with, a dream you've been postponing. It's never too late to make positive changes. And if retirement is still years away, these conversations offer an incredible gift. You have the opportunity to learn from people who have already walked this path. You don't have to repeat every mistake. You can start making different choices today. You can prioritize your health. You can create experiences. You can develop interests and hobbies. You can spend time with people who matter. You can design a retirement that's about more than simply leaving work. One retiree ended our conversation with a statement I'll never forget. He smiled and said, "The secret isn't adding years to your life. It's adding life to your years." What a beautiful way to look at it, because ultimately, that's what all of this is about. Not just living longer, living better. Not just reaching retirement, enjoying retirement. Not just counting your years, making your years count. And maybe that's the biggest lesson these retirees shared. Life is precious. Time is precious. Health is precious. The opportunities we have today won't always be available tomorrow. So appreciate where you are. Take care of yourself. Spend time with the people you love. Pursue the experiences that matter to you. And don't keep postponing the things that make you feel alive. Because one day, many years from now, you'll be looking back at your own life. And when that day comes, I hope your memories are filled with adventures, laughter, purpose, growth, and moments that made the journey worthwhile. I hope you can look back and say that you didn't simply prepare for life, you lived it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 retirement regrets resonated with you the most? Do you agree with them? Would you add something different to the list? Perhaps you've already retired and have a lesson you'd like to share with others. Or maybe you're planning for retirement and have a goal you're determined not to postpone. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is reading through the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. It really helps support the channel and allows us to continue creating content like this. Also, consider subscribing if you enjoy thoughtful discussions about retirement, financial freedom, life lessons, and making the most of the years ahead. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. Until next time, take care of yourself, cherish your time, and remember that the best retirement plan isn't just about having enough money. It's about creating a life you genuinely love living.